the one thing about leaving Chelsea, most of the times the manager's going to do well somewhere else. So sometimes football, there's football teams that are kind of graveyard. I think as a young manager, you should be looking and say, where can I go as a manager? Because there's certain clubs that progress. I think Motherwell, for instance, I think there's a lot of, over the last 15 years, got to Motherwell. I know that's not Chelsea or anything like that, but you've got a chance to progress. There seems to be a link with some clubs you can progress and some that you have no chance. You just die away. But if you look who's left Chelsea, and normally when you get the sack, it's a badge of failure. But I think with Chelsea, it's a case of, well, that's just the way it goes. If you don't win the league within 18 months, then you're out. So there's all these wonderful managers like Ranieri, Conte, Mourinho, they've all had the sack there. So when you think about it, it's not bad getting the sack with Chelsea because you're in such a wonderful group of managers. It ends up becoming a badge of honour. Did you get the sack with Celtic? I did, yeah. The Chelsea, brilliant. I'm up there with all the greats. And but the wee problem with Frank is he's got to decide now because that's what he always wanted to do. And that can be a problem with some people when that is their ambition. And I'm sure that Frank thought that way a couple of years ago. I just want to be the Chelsea manager. I want to be the Chelsea manager. But I think when you look at him and what with Derby and what he's done there, and I can see him that he really enjoys being a manager. So the Chelsea thing would maybe take a couple of months to get his system. But I would think we will see him back because why? I think he loves the game. 2, I think he loves working with people. And I think 3, that he likes making people better. Where he was a player, you could see him working with people. And I think that's a thing that he's got. And I think he can go to other clubs now. And I think he's got the Chelsea thing out of his system. And he will now be saying, I enjoy management. I can do this. And he's proved he can do it. And the funny thing, again, I was speaking to other people about tactics and systems and things like that. But again, most of it's down to man management and recruitment. And I think if he thinks back on, listen, his recruitment might be good in a year's time when Havertz and Werner all get a wee bit of time. It might be good then, but the recruitment has not been instant for him at this point in time, which I think that's the reason he suffered. But also we're in a mad time in football. There's no constants to it. It's variations all over the place. Something to deal with COVID, no training, can't go to train there. Players are missing. They need to self-isolate. The media stuff's crazy when you're speaking to people doing iPads. So and that's why I think the league has got 6 people still in it just now because of what's happening in the world of football just now.
You mentioned the fact that we'll probably see Frank back. The newspapers aren't shy in linking him with the Celtic job should it become available in the next 6 months or a year. Do you think Celtic would consider Frank given the job that Steven Gerrard has done at Rangers?
Well, I think if you get the sack from the court in Bishop Briggs, because you're up to be called a manager, you might be in the running for the Celtic job. So if you get the sack from any job at all and you're called a manager or a coach, then you're in the running of getting it, no matter what business, with the Scottish newspapers, because I've had bettings on Eddie Howe stop, betting on Benitez stop, betting on Lampard stop. But also thinking that, with these claims that these people make in the media, do you know nobody ever refers to their claims and go, by the way, you said 2 weeks ago that Eddie Howe was coming. Nobody ever picks them up. That's the strange thing about football media. But no, I think Frank, listen, it's still a wonderful job, Celtic, but you've got to remember that Lenny's still there. Let's get that right. And it's hard for me to talk about anybody got to Celtic because that's my mate, and I've still got loads of mates at Celtic. But what I would say is, I think there'll be jobs coming up because I think there's decent managers in the English Premier League that will go on and get better jobs somewhere along the line. But I think Frank would probably want to take a break now. I think the Lampards are due another baby coming up soon. I think it'd be great. I think for them to take a wee break, see wonderful occasion, and then have a look at it again after that. And I think he's bought himself enough time to pick and choose for what he's done over his career. But I think it'd be really sad if Frank, and I don't think it'll happen because I think he'll be in, that Frank would choose to leave football and go into punditry. He's too good for that. Far too good for that. He can do that at any time.
One last question on Lampard, Gordon. He was an inexperienced manager when you consider the likes of the others you've mentioned in regards to the Chelsea job. Should he have taken an experienced head in there with him? I know obviously his uncle is Harry Redknapp, which is referenced a lot. Should he have taken an experienced head as a mentor almost?
I think it's handy nowadays because I think the experienced one can mentor in certain things. I think we'd find it hard to mentor in what makes young 17-year-olds, 19-year-olds tick these days, because I think that's it could be a hard one. But we can, for instance, I do it with James McPake. I do not tell him what to do. He'll ask a question. I'll give him about 4 or 5 scenarios, but I listen, and that's what I do. And it's kind of a sports psychology thing, because and what you don't want to do is try and tell him to pick the team. That's not what we're there for. We're there to give him help in that moments of where there's no clarity how they're thinking, and it's like and we'll revise the game sometimes. Most of the times, what do you think? Yeah, you maybe could have thought about that, but you've got to remember that he might have done that. It might have got worse. So when you give a pitch, let a pundit again. Pundits will always give you, I would have done this, I would have done that. Really? And do you know that guarantee to be successful? No, really, but it's just my opinion. So I think a mentor is actually, it's decent, you know. I think there's a place for that. Yeah, I enjoy what I do at Dundee, but I think it'd be handy every now and then, even with the media stuff, just to sit down and say, well, what could you have done better there? How could you handle that? You know, because we're all talking about media in a way that, especially in Scotland just now, some interviews are getting done. It might be, you know, handy at that point to say, come on, sit down, let's have a think about it. So I think you're right. That could have been a good idea for Frank to take that on board. But as a manager, as you know, because you even want to go to James McPake's changes his ways of thinking over the last 18 months. What makes a successful football team or a football group? So that might have been handy for Frank.
In terms of Chelsea, Thomas Tuchel, the former Dortmund and Paris Saint-Germain manager, is coming in. That's expected to be announced very, very soon. His first game is going to be against Wolves. How do you think he'll get off with the Chelsea fans in that game? I know they can't be there, but they'll be hoping for a big start from him.
Well, if it's him, I don't know if it's been... I think it looks like it's got to be... You cannot do anything in a couple of days, that's for sure. And I would imagine the players at Chelsea are a bit down at the moment. There'll be players that are down because, especially the ones he's signed, who he backed to hell. I had a bit of that when I first went to Aberdeen. It's only about £100,000 I went for. But because I didn't play well, I felt really bad for Billy McNeil after him investing that kind of money. I was poor. And I felt, you know, for Billy, And it took me a wee while. And funny enough, only when Billy left, I started playing better. And it might be the same with the Chelsea players who like Frank that much, signed them and think, we're due you that. It's kind of a relief that they're not seeing their manager suffering. The guy that had all the faith in him. So I think the players will have to deal with it themselves. And there's enough good players out there to make sure they deal with it. I don't know if it's going to make any difference to the style they've got to play. There's going to be nothing like that, because I think Thomas, if he goes in, is like most German managers. And it's funny enough, for the years that I kind of, people scratch their head, think I was old-fashioned, thinking fitness was about the most important thing. It was all about systems and how you talk to players, and that systems are, and individuals, but fitness is huge. I remember when Klopp went to Liverpool, I had in the first months, there's 5-6 weeks, there's so many hamstring injuries because he was pushing them to find out exactly who was the ones who wanted to do it, who gave their best, and who wanted to get, and who were fit. And after that, as you see the Liverpool team now, it's all action. Same at Southampton. No, he's not German, but Australian German. So, fitness. Magath got into trouble at Fulham by trying to get the team as fit as possible, and he's proved everywhere else he goes it's successful. And I think it'll be the same with Thomas. I think there'll be a fitness level that he'll want to get to, and maybe even at Paris Saint-Germain, that the individuals there, like their own kind of Galacticos, never fully bought into it. And I think if people buy into what he wants to do, like they bought into Klopp wanted to do, then that fitness level would need to go up. And Frank will be saying, well, I had them fit. Yeah, okay, I believe that you did. But there's something about the way he wants to train. It's like a super fitness, and Klopp's the same, things like that. So I think that would take time to get right in terms of the fitness levels.
Elsewhere this week, there's an interesting game between West Bromwich Albion and Manchester City. Pep Guardiola has come out and praised Sam Allardyce for the job he's been able to do in football management over the years. Yeah. Some people may say it's a contrast of styles. How do you think that game will go? You
have these reality programmes where you get somebody moving in with somebody else and somebody living a different lifestyle and all that. It'd be great if you could say, right, Sam, you go to Barcelona, see what you do there, and Pep, go to Bolton and see what you can do with that. Can you get the same sort of styles that you want? Or Sam goes in there and he's just as good as Pep, or vice versa. It'd be a wonderful experiment in that. But it's something we'll never, ever, ever know. Frank's style is just like a golfer who's had the same swing for ages, never changed it. It's fine. It's successful. People want that, and Pep's the same. But it's interesting, and it'll be again. It'll be down to set plays, I think. If they can get up the pitch and get into set play areas, then they will give them problems. There's no doubt about that, West Brom. And saying that, West Brom, I know the same West Brom they were 4 or 5 years ago, Tony Pulis, where it was like an air force flying in for everywhere. But it's amazing that set plays, as I said to you, you've got 2 Scottish semi-finals over Saturday and Sunday. First game, 2 set plays, set St Johnstone into the lead. And yesterday, it's Livingston. Was it yesterday? Livingston. Was it yesterday? Where am I now? Tuesday, Monday? I don't know. Anyway, so the set play wins the game against St Mirren. So it's huge. And so I think that's the only way West Brom are going to win it on set plays, or cause any bother on set plays. And saying that, probably Man City's philosophy is, well, they'll only get 1 or 2, but we can deal with that. And we'll just play. So, but it's an interesting thing that going, how would managers get on swapping their squads about? It'd be interesting.
It certainly would be. And talking about contrast, you've got one of your former clubs in Manchester United, top of the table. They're at home to bottom of the table, Sheffield United. How do you see that one going? Would you expect a United victory?
Yeah, especially after the victory against Liverpool. which was a cracking game actually. It was a good game, smashing game. But Manchester United, what they've got now, they do not have the movement of a Liverpool or Man City or the individual, but they have good individuals, but know that what they've got at Liverpool and Man City. But what they've got now is power. I mean, sheer power. They've got power. Very early, does anybody? I don't need to look at the stats, but I think they look powerful at set plays against and for. I think they've got a counter attack. They've got a system where they'll press you up front, but then they'll go back into a kind of a wee zonal bit just over the halfway line and win the balls of you for there. And they're patient, more patient than what as Man City or Liverpool would be there after you all the time. But I think their power is helping them out, and the guys up front. Cavani's made a difference with just his movement and his presence. So some good signings there, and they've got brilliance in Fernandes. That's for sure. He's making a huge difference. But I think the power and surprising comebacks like Shaw. I think Shaw's been magnificent. I think he's the best left back in the country at the moment, along with Andy Robertson. And again, it shows you that the mental strength after young Shaw getting a bit being. I was speaking to somebody there with Sir Alex and kind of pressure put on you. And young Shaw got that from Mourinho, has come through it, and he looks a far better player for it. Not that he would enjoy it at the time, but when you look back, you're like, yeah. So I think they're a real powerful side just now, and they can win the league now.
So that is something that will be very interesting to see. And talking about Jose Mourinho, he faces Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool on Thursday. That's a mouth-watering game.
Oh, again, different styles. The effervescent Liverpool, everybody, and it's not as much there this year as it was in last year for different reasons, I think. Maybe going to, but at Tottenham, strong, really strong now. Hoggier midfield and Dembele, so they've got real power in the middle of the park now. But they've also got the best number 9 in the world in Harry Kane, who can do anything. He can score goals, he can link up, he can hit passes, he goes back and defends it, set plays. Number of times he wins headers there. He's got everything going for him. And at times they will pass when they can. They'll move the ball forward and put it into Harry Kane, which I like. I like a variation when I've got a football team, and I think they've got all. There's a wee bit of old Bolton now and then when the ball goes up, Harry goes and flicks it on. There's 2 people running behind, people running in front. So I think Jose's did well again there. I think there's life back into Jose Mourinho, which they went, I think maybe fell out of love with the game for a wee while there, but it's back. There's a sparkle about him. There's a mischief about him again, and I think the players are enjoying that. And but they're hard to beat. I think Tottenham sides before would probably say more flamboyant, but I think they've still got a bit about in terms of excitement, but solid. Again, they're quite prepared to go and sit back in there and take it because they know they're big and strong and they can handle things coming to the box. They can break things up with their power. So I think that's a right good. It's a hard team to beat, Spurs now. A real hard team to beat.
From the English Premier League to the Scottish Premiership, Rangers go away to Easter Road to face Hibs, who obviously are coming off the back of semi-final disappointment. Do you think Hibs will be up for this game and desperate to avenge that defeat?
I would like to think so. But again, it depends how it starts for most teams at that level. If they can get off to a good start, feel good about themselves, then they'll be okay. And they'll get over that disappointment. But if they get off to a bad start, then the memories from the weekend will seep in as well. So again, it's a mind game. It's a you have to send out the ones who are mentally the strongest. Which unfortunately is, I think, what Ross was on about, that he was disappointed in the mental strength of the team the other day there, which is quite surprising. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's quite surprising because they've done so well with Ross over the last period. But it's a big disappointment, especially when they look at who is in the semi-finals. I think Hibs will be thinking, if we get the final, we can win this quite easily. Well, not easily, but have a good chance. So that's where there's a huge disappointment there. And again, that's up to the manager when he comes in after this defeat and starts training and see how they perform. But as I said to you, Rangers are on fire at the moment and playing extremely well. Good shape, good variation, and so it'll be hard for Hibs, that's for sure. Depends on the conditions of the pitch as well. I don't know what the weather's like just now, but if the pitch is a wee bit rough and ropey, then I'm sure that would help Hibs more than it would help Rangers.
You never know. And last but not least, Celtic.
If you look at Celtic last week against Livingston, if you look at the period where the pitch was okay, then they were okay. They were 2-1 in the lead. It could have been 3-4-5. Once that snow came down, and it was hard for them to move the ball about. Because if you actually look at the period where Celtic declined in their attacking ability, it was that when that snow was on. So that's what I'm saying about it could help Hibs if they get that. The weather, it's not so great.
On Celtic there at home against Hamilton Accies and Brian Rice. Brian Rice has got some good results from Hamilton recently. Do you think Celtic will get back to winning ways at home because they desperately need to pick up some momentum again?
Oh, again, with Celtic, you have to win, and it's been a horrible period for them, that's for sure. From that period where they started playing a bit better and actually played very well against Rangers, then that disappointment seems to have got, there's other factors, we know that, but the disappointment of the Rangers thing seems to have got to the players at that point, but there's obviously circumstances that make it a bigger problem, which we've all had a shot at talking about, so we can move on. But yeah, they have to start. But really, against Hamilton, do you really need tactics or drive? You're Celtic players, I mean, you're far better than them individually. Then it's your responsibility to say to yourself, I need to be better than this. I need to do well. And if I can't do that, I'm going to try and be the best teammate I can be. Well, it's closing down, running, jumping higher, something. And it'll be easy, trust me, because confidence is at a low just now. There's no way, sugarcoating that. The confidence is a low at Celtic at the moment.